Today we are going to be going to the cheapest grocery store in my area, which is Walmart, and we're going to be buying as many groceries as possible to stay right in my $25 grocery budget for this week. And if this goes according to plan, we're going to be eating right at or under $1 per serving, which is wonderful. Also, I'm going to be making these meals super high in protein and nutrients. I'm not going to be adding a bunch of different fillers to these meals. Eating on a budget doesn't have to be bland and unhealthy. These meals are going to be really wonderful today. Let's go get to the store now. Because grocery prices are at a high right now, sticking to an extreme grocery budget might be tricky, but let's see what we can get from the store today. First on my list is a can of biscuits. I saw the name brand biscuits were on sale, but the store brand biscuits were still cheaper, so I put that in my cart. Next on my list is chicken smoked sausage. I do want to try to pay under $3 for it, so I'm looking around a bit to see the different prices and the different brands. I'm so glad that I found that the off-brand one was under $3, so I was able to grab that today. While I'm in the meat aisle, I do want to get a pound of ground turkey. I found this festive ground turkey for under $2, which is a steal of a deal. Normally ground turkey is closer to $4 for a pound. Next, I'm throwing a box of macaroni and cheese in my cart. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm sure I'll be able to use it. Since corn is so inexpensive, I'm going to be picking up a can of corn today. I've really been liking these Knorr pasta sides recently, but unfortunately it was out of my budget for today. I am so glad I looked up though, because at the very top shelf I happened to see an off-brand Alfredo pasta. I was barely able to reach it and it was for under $1. I was wanting to grab a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, but they are over $1 now, which is kind of pricey for a can of tomatoes. I looked further and I found a can with peppers and celery, as well as a can with garlic and olive oil for under $1. So I'm going to be going with the can of garlic and olive oil diced tomatoes. This has great flavor in it. I don't often cook with cannellini beans, but I saw this can and it really does look scrumptious, so it's going in my cart. Next is a can of chickpeas. I also don't cook with chickpeas often, but I have a Mediterranean bowls recipe in mind for this can. Next is a can of chili beans. After I grab those chili beans, also I'm going to be picking up a can of tomato soup. A lot of the time store name brands and the big name brands are made in the same exact facilities, or they have the same ingredients in them. The difference is the name brand items always are more expensive because the brands pay for pricey advertising, so that is a difference. Of course, it's not always like that, but it is often like that. I'll be picking up a few more items from the dry goods area, then I'll head over to the produce aisle. I have a little bit of money left over in my budget for produce, so I'm going to see what I could find to stay right in my budget for today. I'm first grabbing a bulb of garlic. Garlic is so inexpensive because it's so lightweight, but it adds tremendous flavor to meals. Sweet potatoes are so nutrient rich, and one sweet potato goes a long way, so I'm just picking up one sweet potato today. This huge 5-pound bag of potatoes will go super far in recipes, and I'll probably add it into multiple recipes. Next is a 1-pound bag of carrots, and baby carrots are just pieces of regular full-grown adult carrots, but they're cut into smaller 2-inch fragments by a machine, so that is why baby carrots are always more expensive than regular carrots, because it takes more work to process them. So I just grabbed the regular carrots. Now I grabbed a couple more things, and here is everything that I'm picking up today. I have all my groceries for the week, and here is everything that I'm picking up today to stay right around my $25 budget. First, the mixed chili beans, chicken sausage, frozen mixed vegetables, cream of mushroom soup, big sweet potato, onion. I'm going to use this in a few different recipes, at least I plan to. And then my biscuits, sweet peas, rice, my bouillon cubes, and then my petite diced tomatoes with the garlic and oil for added flavor, macaroni and cheese, turkey, and then the tomato soup, chickpeas. I never cook with chickpeas, so I'm excited about that. Same with cannellini beans. I need to cook with these more often. And then I have my large carrots, corn, Alfredo mix, my squash and zucchini, garlic, and my potatoes. Let's head back to my house and let's get to cooking this week. Our first dinner we are making this week is this veggie goulash. I'm going to start out by cutting my 1 yellow onion into 4 pieces. I'm going to be using 1/4 of this onion in multiple recipes this week. Now to this pot of boiling water, I'm adding in my box of macaroni and cheese. Just cook it according to the package instructions. And while I have my macaroni and cheese cooking away, over to this pan on my stove, I'm adding in 1/2 pound of our ground turkey. I'll save the other 1/2 pound of turkey for a different recipe. Then add in 1/4 of our onion. Next, add in 1 cup of frozen mixed vegetables. Then for the seasonings, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of onion powder, garlic powder, and Italian seasoning. Break the ground turkey up at this point and cook it through. Now that the pasta is cooked through, just strain it, and over to my turkey. Now that the turkey is cooked through, add that cooked pasta right in there. Next, add in the cheese packet that came with a box of macaroni and cheese. Then add in our can of tomato soup. I'm also adding in a dash more salt. Give this a really good stir, then add in 1/4 cup of water. After you add that water in, scrape all those flavorful bits off the bottom of the pan. Let this cook together for about 5 minutes and then you could serve it up. This is absolutely delicious. If you're second guessing it because of that tomato soup, don't be. It is so good. It kind of tastes like a goulash. It is absolutely phenomenal for such a budget meal. Now we are making this turkey taco rice, so over to this large pot on my stove, I'm adding in our other 1/2 pound of ground turkey. Break that ground turkey up and cook it through. Once it's completely cooked through, go ahead and add in 1/2 cup of uncooked white rice. Make sure you don't cook your rice first. Then add in 1/2 can of cannellini beans. I'm not adding in the whole can, just 1/2 can. I'll save the other 1/2 of the can for another recipe. Same with my corn. I'm only adding in 1/2 can of that corn. I saved the other 1/2 can for a different recipe. Then I added in 1 bouillon cube followed by a tablespoon of taco seasoning and 1.5 cups of water. Give this a really good stir. Let this simmer on your stove for about 20 minutes, stirring it occasionally. If the liquid line gets too low while it is simmering, just add in 1/2 cup more water at a time until the rice is tender. And once the rice is tender, you could serve this delicious dinner up. You could top your turkey taco rice with anything that you like. We had a little bit of cheese and salsa on hand, so that's what we topped ours with, but seriously, this is so delicious. It has such immense flavor. It's so good for being so budget friendly. Also, it makes for great meal prepping, so you can make a bunch of it and meal prep it for the week. Now we are making this sausage Alfredo, so to get it started, slice your chicken smoked sausage into half moons. Yes, I thought I was being creative with editing. Anyway, over to this pan on the stove, add in a tablespoon of olive oil, then add in that sausage. Sear your sausage for about 3 to 4 minutes just to brown the sausage on the outside of it. Now after that sausage is like a nice brown color on the outside, it will just add so much flavor to it. Add in about 1 cup of frozen mixed vegetables, then add in the packet of Alfredo. Just dump it right in there. After you add that in, the packet calls for milk and water on the back of it. Instead of the milk, I just added in extra water since I didn't get milk at the grocery store. Let this simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes until the pasta is tender, and if the pasta needs a little bit more water while it is simmering, just add in about 1/3 cup more water until the pasta is nice and tender and ready to serve. I topped it with a little bit of parsley just to make it look pretty, but this is absolutely phenomenal. It is so easy to throw together, and this dinner makes so many meals out of it. It really is super flavorful, super rich, and I could eat it over and over again without getting tired of it. For this next meal, we are making these Mediterranean bowls. I'm going to start out by making up our white rice. I'm making it in my Instant Pot, but you can make yours over the stove or however you'd like to make it. Add in 1 cup of white rice along with your oil. This electric pressure cooker white rice recipe is actually in the side section of my cookbook. I have over 100 easy budget-friendly recipes in this cookbook if you don't have one yet. Next, add in your water. Give it a good stir. You could also add in seasonings if if you'd like. Put the lid on top and press the rice button. Now over to the pan on my stove, I'm adding in 1 zucchini, then add in 1 yellow squash, a quarter of the onion, and then for the seasonings, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, a half a teaspoon of paprika, then a fourth a teaspoon of cumin, and then add in 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. That garlic's going to add a lot of great flavor. Then 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Give this a really good stir and let this saute on your stove for about 10 minutes to soften the veggies. Now add in our can of diced tomatoes with the garlic and olive oil. Then add in a can of drained chickpeas. Give this a stir. Let it simmer for about 5 minutes. And then once this is done and the rice is tender, you could serve this delicious dinner up. These Mediterranean bowls are absolutely 10 out of 10. They are so filling from that rice. The chickpeas add so much protein to it. There's such immense flavor in this recipe. It really is absolutely so good. This was definitely one of my favorites. Now we are making this rice and veggie stew. So to begin, I have about 6 russet potatoes right here. I'm going to peel them and cube them into smaller pieces. Over to this pot on my stove, I added in a tablespoon of olive oil. Then I added in a quarter of my onion. Just saute it for about 3 minutes to soften that onion. Next, add in 3 large carrots. I sliced my carrots. Then add in the potatoes along with a half a cup of uncooked white rice. After you add that rice in there, go ahead and add in 1 cup of frozen peas, or you could use any veggies that you love. After the peas, add in 2 bouillon cubes, and then for the seasonings, add in a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and if you have any bay leaves on hand, add in 1 bay leaf. I didn't have any bay leaves on hand, so that's why I didn't add it in. Then add in 4 cups of water. Give this a really good stir. Let this simmer, stirring it occasionally for about 20 minutes until the rice is tender and the potatoes are fork tender as well. This stew is so nutrient dense from all of those delicious vegetables. It is so filling and so delicious. It makes so many meals out of it. It is absolutely perfect for this fall and winter. You have to save this one. Now we are making this veggie pot pie, so to get it started, I'm going to cut up my vegetables. I'm going to peel and cube about 4 russet potatoes, and I'm going to slice 4 large carrots. Over to this pan on my stove, I added in a tablespoon of olive oil. Next, add in 1 bouillon cube. This bouillon cube will add a lot of great flavor. Then add in the carrots and potatoes. Next, add in 1/4 cup of water. The water is going to help soften the vegetables. Give this a stir and let your veggies cook for about 8 to 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. And while our veggies are cooking away, over to my cutting board, I am going to cut up my biscuits. Just cut each biscuit into about 4 smaller pieces. Now that my veggies are tender, I added in 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. Next, add in 1.5 cups of our frozen peas, followed by our seasonings, a teaspoon of onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, then a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of pepper. This is super flavorful and delicious. Give this a really good stir just to combine the ingredients. Now over to my 9x13 baking dish, I'm going to spray it super well with non-stick spray. Add half of the biscuit pieces to the bottom of the baking dish. Then add the potato filling over the top of the biscuit pieces. Then add the remaining biscuits over the very top after you spread out that potato filling. Bake this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until the biscuits on the top are golden brown. This pot pie is so great because you could always add different vegetables like mushrooms to this. You could add cooked shredded chicken or canned chicken to this if you'd like. You could really make it your own so easily. You could add different seasonings, but this is so yummy. It is such a delicious, cozy dinner to make. Now we are making this sweet potato chili, so to begin, I'm just peeling and cubing my 4 russet potatoes. I diced a quarter of our yellow onion, and I peeled and cubed my 1 sweet potato. Add all the vegetables into a large pot on the stove. Next, go ahead and add in a tablespoon of minced garlic. After you add that garlic in there, you're going to add the other half of the corn, just the canned corn that we saved from the other recipe. Add it right in there. Next, add in the other half of the can of cannellini beans that we saved as well. After you do that, go ahead and add in your can of mixed chili beans. I really like these mixed chili beans. There's all types of different chili beans you could grab, but these have been my favorite so far. For the seasonings, I added in a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, then 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and then go ahead and add in 3 cups of water. Give this a really good stir, and you're going to let this simmer on your stove for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until those potatoes are nice and fork tender. After the potatoes are tender, you could serve this delicious dinner up. I know a lot of people think eating budget friendly and super cheap has to be like unhealthy and not flavorful, but it is not that way at all. All of these meals today are super flavorful, as high in nutrients as I can make them, especially this chili with those sweet potatoes and those beans. This meal was absolutely